Let's fix something, everybody. Can we see what's wrong here? I'm sure you can. That O-ring is no longer an O. It's more of a C. That's the culprit of our hydraulic issue at the 1086, and why it has been not doing much since last August when I was baling hay. Just a little O-ring. I was afraid it'd be inside the pump, but just looking at the O-ring, I'm sure it was letting enough flow off not to give us any pressure, because we would still have enough pressure to lift the 3-point empty and get the MCV going. So that was a minor detail. You know, at a couple bucks for the O-ring. So I made the mistake of buying O-rings at the dealer. I don't know about the mistake, maybe more of a financial mistake, but I'm hoping that the dealer would have a better quality than what I could find out of the kit of O-rings over here. I mean, it has a good selection of different sizes, 407 pieces, so it might have something I need. Which there were two that we couldn't find. Couldn't find this O-ring, which is just a dead milling port, doesn't do anything. And we couldn't find this O-ring for the intake of the pump anywhere on the suction side. It was only listed as part of a kit for the pump, couldn't buy it separately. Like, well, if all we're going to do is sit here and match up O-rings, I can go home and do that, and it's on the suction side. So if we have issues, we put 5 extra gallons of hydraulic fluid in and we will be fine. So the last little bit of disassembly is getting the old gasket off in pieces. This could take a few minutes. I might need a little scraper or spatula to peel it away. So we'll see you guys when we start fitting O-rings. I did finally figure out a trick once I was about done. Well, you see it's got this red, and that's supposed to make a good seal, makes a special gasket. This wasn't going to be something I was going to cut myself out of gasket paper. But on this red part, it's a little different material than the black, and it was very well adhered to our plate here. And the red would stick. You can still see on this one, around the bolt hole, I got a lot of scraping to do. I figured out that it was a little looser underneath the black. I could get the corner of the scraper in to pry it up and get it to come off much more smoothly than straight out attacking it from the end here, where it was very stuck. So try to not rip it, which it did come off in many pieces. Well, it's O-ring time. I have our plate all cleaned up. I cleaned up our block, wiped it down on the surfaces, and I cleaned up the side of our pump here, wiped it down. Now when I get parts, I usually get a diagram, and since there's so many O-rings that are very similar in size almost, I had the person at the parts counter label the O-rings. So number 10 here goes in on the center of the pump. Now, a little bit problematic, we couldn't find this one, so I gotta do some quick searching out of the kit over the yonder. Yeah, it's been flattened alright. That was a fat one. Probably should quick wipe that out. Handy dandy white t-shirt rag. This isn't gonna be fun for a white t-shirt contest ever again. It's all greasy. And let's see if the O-ring fits. Should be a little tight to hold it. Goes right in. I might get a little bit of oil to put on it so it's not dry. And I gotta do some quick searching to match up that O-ring to something. I found me the O-ring just for the milling port. Like I said, it's a dead spot. Just to keep pressure. But yeah, I think it was just a milling port for manufacture. Well, it turns out it's an R10. That's the size marked on the kit, and it was the very last one. So I got lucky on that. We'll wipe a little bit of oil on it, just so it's not dry. And being these are sort of an insert O-ring, it should be a little tight. Don't want them loose. They shouldn't fall in, and they shouldn't fall out. Maybe clean up some of the extra oil off our machine flat surface. And we are ready to stack our block on top of this. There's nothing special. It just has 2 alignment pins. They're a very tight fit. Had to pull it apart. We'll do one last wipe. Make sure we got any schmutz off of there. And we will sit it on top, trying to align the pinholes in the slight darkness. Looks like we started. They're going together. There you go. Use your hand hammer. Now, crazily enough, these bolts go all the way through the plate, through this block, to hold the pump on. All this block does is it creates, well, it's just something to hold the pump away from the wall of the transmission next to the drive gear. Just 5 pounds of cast iron, just about. Okay, now we have these two holes. Looks like number 14. Well, here's number 14. And we're going to set the pump. Ooh, maybe better to put the plate on because I got to put the bolts on. However, I need to make myself some new copper washers, which those will be repurposed from washers that were at the bottom of the injectors, or that sealed the injectors into the head on the TR70 that we worked on. So 14 should fit in right here. Looks close. Go ahead and put some oil on it. Okay. And as so, it is. Whew. That one's a lot tight. Jeez. It's also a very stiff O-ring. Our O-ring kit O-rings strike me as being on the soft side. That's why we oiled it up so it would slide in there nicely. And if it was dry, you know, I didn't want it to catch an edge and cause a slight rip. That would defeat the purpose of the O-ring. Okay, well, I'm going to find those washers, which I actually found them cleaning off the workbench the other day. They're right back here. We need 4. See, those are 7/16 bolts. Very common to find 3/8 and 1/2 inch. I got my 4 washers there. And they are probably 3/8. So I got to take a 1/16 of an inch off, drill them out to 7/16. Because the ones that are on here are incredibly smashed. I hope you can kind of see that. I got that ring, and just they're incredibly smashed. So it'd be a good idea to get fresh. These ones are much less smashed, a little bit thicker, plenty of material. Should work just fine for what we're doing. And if they don't, well, poop. I have my jig all set up to hold the washer. For anybody who asks, it's the Milwaukee M18. Love my Milwaukee power tools. The only thing I wish we had was the grinder, but the grinder is stupidly expensive compared to the plug-in wall models. And even compared to the drill, it seems like. But when I know how much we can lean into cutting stuff with the wall model, yeah, it's going to take some feats of engineering to make it perform just as well. So we got our 7/16 drill bit all ready to go. Slowly, we're in 1, try to cut the copper. Hold our vice grip. So this is not necessarily going the best, so I'd recommend trying to buy these new. I'm happy enough with my results, but it is no error. Near perfect. I got a file because you got a file. Creates a little bit of a lip. Looks a little rough. Yes, I know. But if you saw how smashed the old ones were, it'll all get smashed out anyways. See how well I did drilling the hole. Usually they slide over the threads real easy. We get to the smooth part of the shank. Those old ones were a tight fit. Sometimes you gotta give it a little bit of schmack. Get it started. Might need 2 schmacks. There we go. That got it back in there. Perfect. Well, 2 to go. I'm sure you can imagine how much fun this is. What did I learn from this whole experience? Really try to find these things in the size you need instead of making them, because somehow being copper, they were still a pain in the butt to drill. They were almost too soft, so I couldn't apply much pressure, but the drill bit wasn't necessarily cutting in. I don't know, it either cut in too much or too little. When it would cut in too much, I didn't have enough of a way to hold it, then the metal was too soft. But keyword is, it's a soft metal, so it will conform to whatever shape it needs when there's tons of pressure on it. So we got those ready to go. It's time to put our plate on top of the pump and everything else. Might get a little bit of Loctite for those real quick, but we should be able to drop it in. Pins go left side. Now I still got to put that O-ring on, but I will put that in after we get the pump sitting on top of this plate so it doesn't fall out on me. Carefully line up our pins, up our O-rings ready to go. That is a very sharp corner for machining. Okay, set it on. So our pins lined up, it's all together. Gotta quick find that Loctite. I guess I'll gently set it down because it doesn't want to stand up. Take our handy dandy 5/8 socket and tighten these down. Got a little bit of thread lock on them. Now that's really pulling it in. Well, our O-rings are getting tightened in there. Better be what we wanted. It was a bear to get the pump from this middle holding piece. There must be some really tight alignment pins. I've already replaced the test port plug O-ring. And this is the O-ring that came off the suction side of the pump. It seemed to match up from the O-ring that was marked R24. If we take a close look here, don't get blinded by the light. About the same thickness. And diameter-wise, as best as I can show, holding it in my hand, looks to be the same. So, put a fresh, supple O-ring in. This is one that's very important to add oil to because you're not just smashing it together. The suction tube is being slid inside, so it's not quite a super tight fit. Get a clean fingertip or two, and we'll rub lots of oil on this one. I might even put some white grease to make sure this is well lubed. And you got to kind of slide it in there down in the groove. Makes it really hard to get these things in. It was a bear to get out. Okay, nice tight fit. Feels like the old one. And you know what? For good measure, to make sure it seals well, I'll take a gentle little bit of white grease and rub it around in there. This is white lithium grease. You saw me use it for the 3-point arms, or the 1 3-point arm on the 1466. There we go. Just to help make sure that everything is good and lubed so it slides together. Put that back on the grease shelf. Okay, so the only thing that's left, at least up here in the garage, got our gasket. And blah blah blah, CNH, Performance Materials Made in USA. Perfect. Homemade part. What I was hoping for. Or at least a country that likes making trade deals with us. Sits right on there. Now I'm not going to put any sort of form of gasket because it's got this special. This one is now blue ring, but I was talking about the red earlier. Now if you run your finger across it, it's raised a little bit. So it has its own forma gasket Permatex material built into it. Don't want to interfere with that. It is on just the one side, but should be enough. That's going on the transmission casing side. So now we should be ready for this O-ring, but I won't put it in place until we get back to the tractor and we're ready to stick this thing on, because I don't want to lose it between here and the barn. So we will see you guys back at the tractor to hopefully get this thing pushed in the side. Which when you look at it, oh, geez. You know, it's held from the side here, and then all this weight over here. Maybe it might rest on the suction tube a little bit, but I mean, you're gonna test out, like, trying to stick it in there. Test out some muscles. It's not a very good leverage point. You've got at least probably 15-20 pounds, whatever, 10 inches away from your holding point. It's kind of like holding a baseball bat at arm's reach, or say a large ratchet, and being able to move it around. It's not a lot of weight, but its positioning is poor. So yes, let's go back to the tractor and put this together. Well, we made it back to the tractor. All right, take a look inside. I got the extra big light back here so I can see everything. I'm wedged sort of between the tire and the transmission. The wheel spacing is lovely. We got the tires set out pretty far on this tractor, so it is delightful. And take a look in here. Now, I had taken the hydraulic filter, the whole cover off the other side, not just like the little access cover, but the whole thing. It's a big oblong piece, thinking I could reach across to do something with our inlet tube right there. That's what takes the fluid into the pump, and if that isn't sealed well, that's why you have to add 5 extra gallons of hydraulic fluid to be above the inlet port. Well, I thought, and it sort of with a little bit of misguidance, that there was a way to take that out and somehow put it back in from the other side. Well, that's our filter casing right there. Unless I didn't try hard enough to get it apart, or I gave up, or whatever, I couldn't figure out how to get this guy out or where it came from. And I think behind the filter, there is more or less a sheet metal piece that the filter butts up against to hold the filter in place. And I couldn't figure out how to nicely retract that from its position. So I just put everything back together. I obviously got a new gasket for it and whatnot. Oh, that's how it comes. I mean, it moves easily enough. It's too late. I put it back together. I'm not going to dive back into it. It's easy enough just to put 5 extra gallons of fluid in it, and with 5 extra gallons, you know we're never going to run out. So this does come loose. I'm debating on, do I put that in the pump and then try to get that back in the hole, or try to get the pump to line up to that? Whew, this is going to be a tough one. Well, you guys have got to go in my head so I can have both hands. Pressed the O-ring into its spot. Let's see if we can't line things up, not run into too many issues. Oh, come on. It's a good thing I put those alignment pins there. I don't even know. I gotta twist this thing out? Oh, geez. Okay, so you gotta twist it apparently. Gotta twist it in. Well, we're straight up and down now. The question is whether I got enough finger strength to lift. Oh, come on. Everybody mash. I'm deciding I must not have been too far off. After all the grunting and groaning, I'm trying to line this thing up. I'm slowly working the bolts. The alignment pins are right down here, so I'm using the bolts on either side to bring it in. I've been using my putty knife. It's kind of a feeler gauge. I can't get it in, so I must have drawn it down tight. This is just using a little wrench. Gotta tighten the front side up, and there's still a bunch of bolts to put in. And so this one's now really loose. Yeah, so it lined up easier, better than I thought, or I did something terribly wrong. Well, I called the dealer, or a dealer that's close, and harassed one of their shop mechanics about this. Because I was wondering whether the suction tube went into the suction port on the pump properly. Because it just, I don't know, was a little easier than I thought. And I still don't buy how going through the filter side does anything to help. I was mostly worried about, would I push the suction tube, like if I'm pushing the pump in, I just push the suction tube out of the way if things weren't lined up properly. Because I played with it. I didn't try pushing it in too far. I pushed it a little bit. I know there's a seal in there. Now comes the moment of truth. Put 15 gallons in it. The oil is right at the full line, so it's not over full. Apparently you need 20 gallons to have it 5 gallons over full. So hop up in here. I just put the batteries in. Everything plugged. Ooh, dusty seat. Been sitting for a few months. Come on, spider, get out of here. Dusty, dusty, dusty. Ooh. Okay. Don't need too much fuel. As I shove the clutch in. Well, we got idiot lights. So we're in park. Here goes nothing, hot dog. Takes right off. Could take a couple of minutes for the transmission light to go out. Just because we've been sitting here. The 3-point hasn't gone up yet. 3-point's all the way down, so come on, you can do it. It went out. So what does that mean when it goes out? Since we're not over full of fluid, that means, okay, 3-point going up. Obviously the 3-point will go up. There's a little bit of air in the system. You see it's a little hoppy and jerky coming up. So we're not over full, which means I got the suction tube in correctly, or else we wouldn't have primed. We wouldn't have gotten any fluid to go in it. That's nice about a gear pump. Gear pumps are good at pulling fluid. Good at pushing it too. Okay, so I got to shove the drawbar back in. I got the new batteries in it. And maybe we'll take it for a spin because I've missed driving this thing so much. Whew, this is absolutely delightful. Well, I drained a bunch of fuel out, didn't need to, so I might have to go get some fuel. But we'll probably go back over to the disc, see if we can't lift it up. I always forget how low the clutch is in this. I'll drive to 66, or not 66, 14. Too much 6 around here. Good thing we don't have a 666. Oh boy, there was tons of cobwebs in that door. Woo! Didn't want that when I woke up this morning. Okay, out of the barn, here we go. How I've missed you. For 10,000 hours and all we needed was an O-ring and a gasket. That is fantastic. And that looks like more rain. Lovely. Whew, clutch is so easy. Let's see if we can not get it stuck in high range. I feel like I can take on the world in this tractor. I can drive on water. Well, we had enough rain to move the water tank. Not enough rain, enough wind. The bathtub was like that, sorry. We had to do that by hand to drain it out. The bathtubs make great water troughs for the cows or feed troughs. Especially the cast iron, they make great water troughs. So yeah, there's the 6610's other job, spraying. I didn't get that on video the other day because that was an absolute crapshoot. I mean, spraying went okay. Got the chemicals on, try to kill the weeds. A little muddy, like I showed earlier. Just rained and rained and rained, and had to get it done before the corn got too big. Smooth. Oh man, I forgot you guys aren't in the case, so it could be getting windy again. All we have to do is get close enough. Either it'll lift it or it won't. Now halfway. Gotta remember what tractor I'm driving because I want to reach up here for the 14. Gotta be careful so I don't just like shove the throttle up too fast. Whew. Ah, my rag. Got the drawbar put in. Yep, park finally locked all the way. This is the drop hose. That's the lift hose on top. Flip the levers. Well, moment of truth. Okay, it's this first lever here. We'll pull it up. It's extending, and it's going up and rolling away, but it's going up. So if you have trouble getting it up, you just need a ring, a little O-ring. You might need a pump too, but try the O-ring thing.